Lately in physics, with the latest Nobel Prize probably, everybody heard at least of what's called the Higgs mechanism. And what is interesting in this discovery is it was predicted like 40 years ago, but you know, in those terms, if I take now the physics to try to express it in Buddhist terms, vacuity in physics is not nothing. It is not empty. It is filled out by sort of energetic fields. Like we know fields like the electromagnetic field, the waves, and the light. Those are fields of energy. And the empty space, if everywhere, if one can say, vacuity is filled out with that field, which is called the Higgs field. And that's with the interaction of vacuity that sort of the protoparticle or some perturbation will just grab energy from vacuity to become matter. Don't forget that energy is matter, is the same thing. We observe matter. So actually, the matter is mostly coming from the energy of vacuity, which is very close to the idea of Zen, where the essence of everything is just vacuity. And then in Zen you would say phenomena are coming from vacuity, and they go back to vacuity. Like you see, particle will be ejected from this dimension of potential energetic field, may spring out in the real world, might disappear again. So you see, there's also this question of impermanence, which you find out also in physics. But it was predicted that the question of vacuity was really the essence of everything in the world. And this latest discovery says the same thing. Actually, the mass is mostly coming from this energetic field with which, you know, the protoparticle or flavors, as we say, would take their energy, and at the end will create mass. So that's, now we understand how mass is created. We do not understand what are the flavors. You see, so it's like those, it's not even particle at the beginning, it's like a flavor of particle, so we call them flavor. And they have different status. Some of them attract a lot of energy from the Higgs field, some of them attract less. For example, the light does not attract any energy from the field, so it's why its mass is zero.
It doesn't need any energy.
No. So without this,
it is energy.
It is energy.
Mm-hmm.
If there would not be this Higgs field, mm-hmm. there would be no mass. This universe, our universe and ourselves, would not exist. So in some sense, in essence, mm-hmm. we are all formed by this field, which is in the vacuity. Vacuity is full of energy.
Vacuity is no other than form, and form is no other than
exactly.
vacuity. Yes.
That's why then we consider that everything is a form of vacuity. For example, when a monk receives the ordination of monk, one doesn't tell him, you are a monk. One says, you have been taking the form of a monk.
The form.
So the point is, nothing exists in itself, like in Zen. Which is great, because you see, it's against egoism in the normal life. It's also the consciousness that we live together. We are all part of humankind. We live in nature. We live with no separation with our universe. So it's a great thing to understand, or to have this consciousness that we are actually coming from what we consider being nothing.
Yes, and it's not just simply nothing becoming something, because I must confess that I have always been deeply impressed by the fact that when you are ordained a monk, you also receive a new name. It's like a second birth.
Yes.
So you take another form, as you very beautifully said. You take the form of a monk and you get a new name, and that happens also in Orthodoxy. Monks, when they are accepted as monks, they take a new name.
So our common names are names without a form, in fact, because they are, our names are a kind of separative names and not names.
The name is just a word. You see,
it's the first form. It's the form with which we are born, and well, we have to remember the
ego and our names, something like that. The ego, who is not the function of ego is to separate us from the world, the personality, and
yes, of course. First of all, of course, the ego is the name is related with the ego. You see, you can say there are some people who dislike totally their name because it does not correspond. So we have some kind of identification with our name. That's also why we receive a new name. To choose a name for a new monk is something to which one should pay big attention. The ego, the ego in Buddhism, you see, the ego is, at the end, it's a word. You know, that's what we believe that we are. Okay, I believe that I am a great manager, so my ego is the ego of a great manager. Or I'm a very rich banker, so my ego is rich banker. But when you start, you know, digging a bit deeper, whom am I really? No. I'm more than just. I'm different than just a banker or a farmer or something. And you go deeper and deeper, and at the end you find that you're just, you know, a human being, alive. When you have removed all the particularities of your ego.